Gen Con 2025, it's almost here. There's going to be so many games available for purchase and for demo at the big convention in Indianapolis. And today I'm taking a look at my top 10 most anticipated. Hey, it's Jared from Specifically Solo. We're going to focus on games that have a solo mode included and can be played with one player, if not more. Some of these are solo only games though. And I'm also focusing on games that will be available for purchase. So I'm not going to talk about anything that just says it's going to be demoed at Gen Con. You can find all of the games available at Gen Con on the Board Game Geek Gen Con preview list. I'll put a link to it in the description for this video. Eric Martin puts that together every single year, does a fantastic job. There's so many games to go through on there. I've gone through the entire list and picked out my top 10, but I do have a few honorable mentions. I could not just pick 10. I actually had 3 more games that I was really excited for as well. So let's go ahead and jump into my honorable mentions, then I'll get into my top 10. So my honorable mentions I'm just going to talk about very briefly here, and my first one is Oddland from Allplay. This is a game where you are going to have these terrain cards. You're going to place them somewhere on your island, and you could cover up previous terrain. Then you're going to pick one of your scoring tokens, which are flora or fauna tokens, and you're going to play that on the card that you just played, and then those tokens score based on their surroundings. Sounds like a really interesting concept, kind of like a pattern building game, and the ability to change terrain throughout the game sounded interesting. Also sounded like it would be a good game for one player. So that was my first honorable mention. My second honorable mention is a game called Fliptoons from Thunderworks Games. This is a deck building game, and you're going to have a deck of toon actors, and you're going to flip 6 of those toons over every round, and then you're going to basically audition them together. So each card in your 3x2 grid, they have different effects on them, and some are resolved right after you flip them, but a lot interact with one another and hopefully earn you fame for your studio. But some things don't work well together, so you've got to keep an eye out for that as well. This seemed like a really interesting deck building game. The artwork looks really cool for this one, and I like a quick playing, game. It seems like this one's a pretty fast game as well. Seems like it'll be really good solo. Thunderworks Games always does a really nice job with their solo modes and really take the solo player into consideration. So that was another honorable mention for me. That's Fliptoons from Thunderworks Games. And then my last honorable mention, I just had to put it on here because of the theme. It just intrigued me so much. That's Ham Helsing from Fireside Games. So this is based on a graphic novel, which I have not read, but I'm assuming is maybe based off of Van Helsing a little bit since it's Ham Helsing, but it is a cooperative adventure board game. So you've got different characters, you've got a deck crafting system as well with transparent cards. You're trying to protect various locations. You're trying to power up your character as well. Stop the villains. Seems like a game where you're just fighting, baddies throughout the entire course of the game. But again, the theme was so interesting to me here. It has sort of that whimsical feel to it. I really enjoyed the artwork here as well, and it seems like it'll be a pretty cool game. It seems like they put a lot of thought into this game. The deck crafting ability sounds cool, and that's going to be a common theme that you're going to see throughout this top 10 is a lot of games with a lot of cards in them this year at Gen Con. We do have some, traditional just board games, but a lot have a lot of cards in them or deal with cards just due to the nature of the games coming out this year at Gen Con. So those are my 3 honorable mentions. Again, we had Ham Helsing, we had Fliptoons, and we had Oddland. So now let's go ahead and jump into the top 10. So number 10 is not really a sequel, but the second in this line of games. The first one came out last year at Gen Con. This is the second one. This is Chronologic Cuzco 1450. So this is from Super Meeple and Hachette. This is a deduction game, and it's kind of like Clue. In fact, that's how they describe it on the BGG page. You're trying to find the culprit, the weapon, and the location. And you're interrogating these subjects throughout the course of the game. There's these tiles that are like dual layered, and you're basically putting a card up to that, and it's going to reveal a certain amount of information to you that will be helpful to try to deduce where the person is, who committed the crime, things like that. You can play this obviously with other people, but I found that this one works really well solo. I have a playthrough of the first one on my channel that I got last year after Gen Con, and you're just trying to keep track of various information throughout the cases. The first box, which is Paris, has 15 cases in there. They all play pretty quickly. You can replay the cases, especially if enough time goes by that you don't remember who did a particular thing in a certain area. And it sounds like this one is going to be just a little bit more difficult. It's going to increase the complexity just a little bit, increase the deduction. I thought the one that came out last year was really, really good and worked really well as a solo deduction game. It was a lot of fun. Not a big box, doesn't require a lot of setup, very easy to get to the table. The game sessions are pretty fast as well. So I'm interested to kind of see what's the same and what's different in this new version that's coming out this year at Gen Con. So that's Chronologic Cuzco 1450 from Super Meeple and Hachette. That's my number 10. Number 9 is another card game. This is another Thunderworks game, and this is Citizens of the Spark. So this one, there's going to be a lot of variety in terms of setup and gameplay. It's a game where you are taking turns trying to attract citizens, take action, and then claim these sparks. And the more cards you have of a particular type, the more citizen cards you have, the more powerful that action becomes. And then whoever has the most sparks at the end of the game wins. Now, the solo mode obviously works a little bit different. I skimmed through the rulebook a little bit. Seems like, again, Thunderworks games have put a lot of thought and care into this solo mode to making it feel like it is a real player that you are playing against. Seems like it's a pretty good solo mode. Obviously, I won't know 100% until I try it out, but there is a lot of thought there, and it's not just a beat your own score game, which is one reason why I had it on this list. So you're going to have different animal citizen types that you're going to play with every game, and there's 30 available creatures that come in the box, and then each citizen type has different powers, and then the combos in each game are going to be different based on what characters you're playing, what citizens you're using, things like that. So it seems like there's a lot of variety here, and every game you play of this will be different just based on how the cards come out and how you decide to set up things for that particular game. So you're going to recruit citizens on your turn and then place them in your tableau. So you're building a tableau throughout the course of this game. And then you're trying to group like citizens together to grow their strength. And then you're going to select one type of citizen in your tableau that you're going to activate. And then you take the effect of that card and discard it from your city. But when you activate a citizen, all players can follow your move and activate a matching citizen of their own. And it looked like the solo mode was also going to have that ability as well. So when you pick things to activate, it's going to be a benefit for other players at the table and also the solo mode when you are playing this solo. The artwork really pops here. All of Thunderworks games look great, but I think the thing that intrigued me so much about this one just was the variety in setup. There's so many cards in this game, and it seems like the possibilities are really endless in terms of how you decide to set up things and use those different creature cards and those animal cards during the game. And it seems like you could replay this a lot and not get the same experience. So this is one I'm really interested to check out at Gen Con. That is Citizens of the Spark from Thunderworks Games. That's my number 9. My number 8 is a solo-only game from Salt and Pepper Games, and that is Onoda. I think I'm saying that correctly. This is a game based on a gentleman named Hiro Onoda, who was a Japanese soldier who served as a second lieutenant in the Japanese army during World War II. And he was one of the last holdouts for Japan, and he continued fighting for Japan nearly 29 years after the war ended. And he was stationed on Lubang Island in the Philippines, and he carried out guerrilla warfare there till 1974. So this game is kind of involving his life a little bit in terms of what you were doing throughout the course of the game. So you've got 6 rounds in this solo-only game, and you're trying to obtain a certain number of resources that will let you finish a turn without suffering penalties. You also, in each round, undertake a mission. That's very similar to other Salt and Pepper solo-only games, like Resist, like Witchcraft. You have these missions that you're trying to complete throughout the course of the game, and it seems like this one is going to be kind of that same thing, and you'll get points if you complete the missions. You also experience some of the events that he experienced during his stay in Lubang. So if you manage to overcome those 6 rounds without going insane due to paranoia, or if you don't, if you can survive death, basically, it's time to then see if you will be recognized a hero or fade into oblivion. That's from the description on Board Game Geek. I love a solo-only game because I feel like, obviously if you're a solo player, you probably are watching this, it's developed with us in mind. It's developed from one player perspective, so everything is going to be set up for one player, no additional rules that you will have to learn. And Salt and Pepper Games do a really fantastic job with their solo-only games, which usually 25th Century brings over here to the United States. But I've played Resist. I really enjoy Resist. I played Witchcraft. That I thought was a fantastic game, one of my favorite games that I picked up at Gen Con last year. That came out last year, I believe. And so they have a really great track record with these solo only games, and I'm really interested to check this one out. Now, I will say this theme doesn't intrigue me as much as maybe Resist or Witchcraft does, but I'm interested to learn more about this man who I don't really know anything about right now except for looking him up for this video, just kind of briefly learning about him. But it seems like he was a real warrior for the Japanese army and served his country for quite a long time. So I'm intrigued by this game. I want to see it more. I kind of want to learn a little bit more about it, but being solo only, being from Salt and Pepper Games, had to put it here on my list. That is number 8. Number 7 is from Osprey Games, and that is Ofrenda. So in Ofrenda, another card game, it's card placement game inspired by the Mexican Day of the Dead. So the Dia de los Muertos is almost here, and it's time to prepare the Ofrenda, which is a inviting altar to those who have passed away. The thing that really jumped out to me with this game is the artwork. It just pops. It is so colorful. Looks a lot like Coco, that Pixar movie from a couple of years ago, and I really enjoy what they did here with just making this really pop, and it looks like it has a fantastic table presence just looking at the pictures of the game. I can't wait to see it in person. So you're going to gather various portraits of your family members, and you're going to place candles and marigolds to help guide their spirits and make offerings. So it's a card placement game. You're going to draft these cards, and then you're trying to arrange them in a particular way, and you want to make sure that everybody's kind of wishes are fulfilled. You're going to have certain people that want to go next to other people. You have certain people that might want to be away from the food they like least. But when things start to fill up, it's going to get more difficult to be able to put those cards out. I like these type of games. I feel like they are really good puzzle games. Usually these types of games really work well solo because unlike when you play with other people, you can kind of take as long as you want to arrange those various cards in that, tableau in that area. It seems like in this game that there are player boards that the cards will actually sit on. It looks like they're dual layered from the pictures. Can't tell 100%. If so, that's a really nice way to do it instead of just having them sit out on a table. The fact that they've included some actual boards to slot the cards into or to place the cards into so they don't move around, I think is a really nice touch here. Again, the artwork looks fantastic. The theme is really interesting too. I don't ever think I've seen a game with this particular theme. It's a little bit of a sad theme, honestly, to prepare something for someone after they've died. But I think that's really intriguing, really interesting for a board game. And so I'm really interested to check this one out at Gen Con. That is Ofrenda from Osprey Games. That is my number 7. Number 6 is on this list because of the design team. Now, there's not a ton of info about this one. This is from Happy Camper. This is called The Four Doors. And the 3 designers on this are Matt Leacock, designer of Pandemic, Ben Pinchback, and Matt Riddle. I have found that I really enjoy Ben Pinchback and Matt Riddle designs, whether that be River Valley Glassworks. They've done some roll and writes that I found really interesting. So those two are always a design group that I keep my eye on. And here they're teaming up with Matt Leacock again for a game called The Four Doors. So I'm going to try to explain this one a little bit, but it seems like a little confusing. Another card game here. You're going to put 4 door cards in a column, and then you're going to reveal cards from the deck, and you're going to place them to the left or the right of the matching colored door based on the card's designs. Then you get cards in your hand. You get a random adventurer, and then on your turn, you can do up to 3 different things. You can draw a card, move to an adjacent door, or give a card to someone at your door, and that eliminates a shadow card from your door by discarding a card that bears the lantern of the same color, or by finding a relic by discarding 4 cards of the color that match your door. So each door has a relic behind it. Once you find a relic, you can use that power to use that relic. But then you're going to draw 2 cards at the end of your turn, then place shadows equal to the shadow level. So this was the interesting thing right here that was near the very end of the description that really intrigued me with this one. So if there's a 4th card that will go on either side of the door, you're going to flip the door to its partially closed side. And then if the door flips a second time, you remove it from play. And if you don't have the relic that's behind that door, you lose. So overall, it seems like there's a lot of strategy here. It's kind of thinking of which doors do I want to go to, which cards do I want to turn in possibly to get the relic that is behind that door. How am I going to get to all of the doors, before time basically runs out? What do I focus on? What do I prioritize? Again, the reason that this is on here is I thought it sounded pretty interesting. It's from 3 designers who have a very fantastic track record. Now, the thing is, there's not a lot of info on this game yet. There's just a few pictures that are on Board Game Geek. There's this description, but there's no, gameplay videos or gameplay info really at this point. There is a rule book. The solo mode looks pretty simple in terms of what you're going to have to do for that with this game. So that was another thing that intrigued me. I enjoy solo modes that obviously are a lot of setup and really act like a real player and do all of that throughout the course of the game. But I also enjoy solo modes that are pretty quick and don't add a lot of additional rules to a game. And that was kind of the case here in the 4 Doors. So this one was interesting to me. Again, kind of a unique card game here. And the design team is really selling this one. So this is the 4 Doors. This is from Happy Camper Games. That's my number 6. Number 5, speaking of card games, this is a gigantic card game. This is the new game from Stonemaier Games, designed by Jamey Stegmaier. That is Vantage. So it seems like from early reviews and kind of thoughts on this one, that it is maybe best played solo. So that was one reason it was on this list. Another reason is that it is a Stonemaier game. They always make really high quality, good games. Jamey Stegmaier is a really great designer. Expeditions, which you can probably see behind me there on the shelf right there, is honestly one of my favorite solo games to play. I have a playthrough of that on my channel. So in this game of Vantage, it is an open world cooperative adventure game, but it's not a campaign game. Jamey has been, stressing that throughout the course of the development and design and release of this. This is not a campaign game, but it is an exploration adventure game. So there's 800 locations on 400 different cards, and there's over 900 other cards in the game. So there's so many cards that come in this game. So basically what you're going to do is you begin each game of this on an intergalactic vessel heading towards an uncharted planet. And then you crash far away from your companions, but you have total freedom as to how you want to explore, discover, and interact with the planet. You view your location from a first-person perspective, and you can communicate with and support other players. Obviously in the solo mode, you won't be doing that, but you are separated by vast distances. So only you can see your current location. And then you can decide, again, exactly how you want to go through this planet. Another thing that was interesting to me that Stonemaier has been pushing with this one is that setup is very, very quick. Sometimes when you have these types of games, like I really enjoy Sleeping Gods and Sleeping Gods Distant Skies, and I've played The Seventh Continent as well. But one thing that is a disadvantage for those games is that they have tons of setup to be able to get them to the table. The adventure is fun. In the course of Seventh Continent, I actually got rid of that game just because I found the card management and the card process kind of tough to deal with and a lot to manage. And I also really didn't like in that game how you would go in one particular direction and then maybe you'd fail and you'd have to start back from the beginning again and kind of, trace your way back over there. So there's a couple of things. The punishing difficulty in that one was just, I was really not a fan of. But for this game, Vantage, Stonemaier is saying that you can get it to the table and start playing it in about 3 minutes. That's something that really intrigues me, and I kind of want to see it set up at Gen Con to see how much setup is on the actual table. It seems like there's really not a lot. It seems like all the cards are going to stay in, their holders and dividers and things like that, and you're really not going to have that much stuff out on the table. So I think that's really good, especially for a solo player in terms of being able to get something to the table quickly. And also, if it's a game where you're kind of exploring, making decisions, adventure game, I feel like that's going to work very well solo because, again, you're going to be able to do whatever you want throughout the course of the game. Now, it sounds like all the other players in this game can do that same thing, but it also feels like it will work very well with just one player playing it at the table. So that is Vantage. That is my number 5 from Stonemaier Games. Number 4 on my top 10 most anticipated list is Spooktacular from Level 99 Games. So it's Halloween in 1986, and the Spooktacular Film Festival is in full swing in the middle of a thunderstorm. Suddenly, lightning strikes this movie theater where this film festival is being held at, and it releases 100 years of cinematic monsters from the silver screen. And you play as the monsters. You wreak havoc on this movie theater and on the people inside of it. You're devouring moviegoers. You're trying to become the most terrifying monster of all time. And there are 20 different monsters that come in the box, and they all play a little bit differently. So again, like I was talking about earlier with Citizens of the Spark, this seems like another game where the variety is just kind of off the charts and the variability. It seems like you could have, if you're playing solo and you're playing as one of those monsters every game, that's going to take you 20 games until you play through all of those various monsters. That's a lot of value in the box. I also think the theme here is really cool. Like, hey, you're not playing as a citizen trying to escape these monsters. No, you get to be the monster. You get to go attack people. You get to go, destroy stuff. Try to be as fierce and menacing as you can. That's one thing that I find is really unique in this game. Also, there's tons of, obviously, variability. As I mentioned, the rules are pretty easy to understand. Everything you need to know is right there on your monster board. Great game design. I think I have a picture here of a couple of the monsters in the game. And when you are playing as those monsters, what you have the ability to do, obviously, is see all of that information right there on that monster card in terms of what they can do and what their abilities are. So you don't have to reference the rule book a ton to know how these monsters play. Really, really smart decision there from Level 99 Games to design it like that, so I don't have to constantly go back to the rule book and constantly go back to the table. But I love movies. Horror movies are really intriguing. This is set in the 80s, so I feel like that's a fun era to set this in. I think the theme is really coming through in this one. It's just kind of oozing and dripping with theme, and I find it to be a really unique theme as well. Obviously, you have some games like Horrified, which have done a couple of different versions at this point, but in Horrified, you're kind of trying to, stay away from the monsters. Here you are playing as the monsters. So I think that's really interesting and kind of fun. So I'm definitely excited to check this one out. That's Spooktacular from Level 99 Games. That's my number 4. Number 3 is another card game. If you're a poker fan, I think you will enjoy this one. This is from Devir. This is Ace of Spades. Now, this can be played 2 players, but is basically being pitched as a solo-only game. So that's why it's high up here on this list. So the description is, your path of vengeance has led you to Arizona, and you know that the necromancer who has ruined your life has taken over this cemetery as the base of operations, and you have to finish him off at any means necessary. So you face Lord Overkill, who is a supernatural being, but your prowess as a good gambler goes beyond sleight of hand, and you channel your magic through poker plays to take out his minions one by one and descend into hell itself to duel the monster who ruined your life. Now, this is basically a single-player game, a 2-player game if you want to play it in co-op mode, but it uses poker mechanics to resolve these duels against these minions and villains that spawn from hell. So I think this one, again, really kind of interesting theme here. Devir does a really nice job with games that work well for solo players. I have a couple of them myself, and they really do a good job with the solo mode usually as well in terms of putting a lot of thought and time into it. This one is really designed for a one-player only experience, and it's a small box. It seems like it'll be pretty interesting to check out and take a look at. I'm not particularly good at poker. I haven't played poker a lot. I've played it a little bit, and I've also played The Gang as well from Cosmos, which is a pretty fun cooperative game. You can't play that one solo though. This one you can, and so if you enjoy card games, like just classic card games, or if you enjoy poker, I think you will really like this one. And again, the fact that it's basically a solo only game is one reason that I wanted to put it on this list. So that's Ace of Spades from Devir. That is my number 3. My number 2 is from Paverson Games. They were showing this off last year at Gen Con. This year it's going to be available for purchase. That is Luthier. So Luthier is classical music in Western Europe. And so what you are doing is there's a kind of a unique mechanisms in this game that are coming together. There's hidden bidding and worker placement. So those two things together are pretty interesting to me because I don't know if I've, ever seen that before in a game. Obviously, there's bidding games and hidden bidding, but there's also, the worker placement aspect that is coming in here as well. And so what you're doing is you're managing your resources, you're trying to craft musical instruments while also courting actual historic patrons through a changing tableau of actions and bonuses. And each player decides how they want to balance their skills. There's tracks that you're moving up on. You can unlock specialized workers worker abilities, other bonuses as well. And there's different things that you can focus on. You could say, I want to go and focus on musical performances, or I want to focus on building instruments and repairing instruments, or I want to focus on apprentice training or expanding my workshop. It just seems like there's so much stuff to do in this game, and kind of the paths are very open and varied. It seems like there's multiple ways to kind of win and different strategies that you can employ in each game. And so what you're doing here is, obviously, this is a really cool theme here set in the world of classical music, and there's been a couple of classical music games that have come out. Devere had that one that came out a couple of years ago. Obviously, this one is more focused on, you as the instrument maker and the instrument repairer, and that's such a unique theme. And the production on this game just looks fantastic as well. Paverson Games, their other game that they're known for is Distilled, which the theme just comes through so much in that game in terms of making drinks and collecting ingredients, and I feel like this one will be no different. I really enjoy worker placement as a mechanism as well, so that's one reason why this one intrigued me too. The solo mode for Distilled is pretty good. I think the solo mode for this one, I've read through it a little bit, didn't go entirely in depth, but they did put a lot of time and effort and thought into it in terms of making it behave really like a real player, and also sometimes with that hidden bidding thing that is happening in this game, that can be hard to manipulate when you're playing solo because there's nobody else at the table. But it feels like they've done a nice job of figuring out a way for the automa to be able to hidden bid as well, and for you to know kind of maybe what they're bidding on. And so then instead of it being hidden for you, you're selecting a card from your hand to decide if you want to beat it in certain areas where you can pick things up and do things basically on the board. At least that's how I understand it so far. But the theme here is really cool. The components look really, really nice. Artwork looks fantastic as well. That's Luthier from Paverson Games in at number 2. And my number 1 is another one that feels pretty unique. I don't know if I've seen a game do this before. That is Lightning Train from Direwolf. So in this game, it is a bag building train game. Again, I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I've seen, of course, deck building train games or card drafting train games. That's what Ticket to Ride is. Those are very common, but a bag building train game feels very unique. So you're going to build your bag, trying to improve your company's resources, and then you're going to place these chips out on open stations and different train lines across 8 regions of North America. You can get a lot of money if you get the right goods to the right cities, but are you going to work together or try to, cut out the competition, basically, if you're playing with multiple people? Now, this game is also designed by Paul Dennen, who designed Dune Imperium, which is a fantastic solo game. And there's not a lot of info out on this game yet. In fact, there's not even a rule book out. But Paul Dennen did confirm on BGG that the solo mode is going to be an automa for this and not a beat your own score. So it will behave like another player. I really love train games. I like bag building games. I feel like it's hard to find one that works well solo in terms of maybe bag building. There's a couple. I just reviewed Conservice not too long ago on my channel, and that's a really good solo bag building game. But the train game is a really fun thing as well. And I think using those chips and purchasing those new chips and trying to get the most value out of your deliveries, and it's almost like a pick up and deliver game, it seems like, as well. Maybe not the pickup part, but the delivering of different goods around the board. So I'm really interested to check this one out at Gen Con. I love the theme. I love the train game thing going on here and the bag building. I feel like that's a really unique combo. Pair it with a designer who designed a fantastic solo game that I still love and play quite often in Dune Imperium, and I feel like you could have a real winner here. So that's my number 1, Lightning Train from Direwolf. So there you go, my top 10 most anticipated games of Gen Con for 2025 for a solo player. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. I will be at Gen Con in Indianapolis, so if you see me, feel free to say hi. That's always really great. I love meeting people that watch the videos here and subscribe to the channel, and hopefully you're able to check out some of these games at the convention, or if not at the convention, when they hit your friendly local game store or some online retailers very soon after Gen Con. And in the case of some of these are already out or delivering to backers if they were crowdfunded, so they will be available very soon if you can't pick them up at the convention. Until next time, I'm Jared. You've been checking out Specifically Solo.